Chapter 17, A Promise of War. Operation 22 Green was barely plodding along in the summer of 2004, 1 year after I'd been passed into the Boggles. For me, it was the dog days, every day, all the time. Sure, I continued making big gun buys for ATF, even an occasional drug buy, but for the most part of my life as a motorcycle outlaw was all about riding from one place to another, getting shit-faced, then riding home again. Sprinkle that routine with even more drinking, the occasional fight, and those Wednesday night church socials where the same tired bullshit was rehashed over and over again, and you've got a pretty good handle on life as a one percenter. But every once in a while, the seamy underbelly of that overgrown boys club would be exposed. A big meth deal here, a shooting there, and an occasional civilian beatdown thrown in for good measure. Some of the Boggles would be answering for those sins on the day of the takedown, but I wanted more. I was after the big score. My opportunity came that summer with the rumblings of an impending gang war between the Boggles and the Hells Angels. As I said, there was nothing like a good old-fashioned gang war to break a few laws and get those indictments flowing under the RICO Act. You got one outlaw talking about rolling on the enemy. No one paid attention. But you got 20 of those bastards talking, and you had yourself a criminal organization, which could go a long way toward a federal racketeering case. The Hells Angels and Boggles have been beating on each other for years. But even more so in the months since I decked that angel at the Crossroads Bar and Grill. Those two enemies never needed much of an excuse to throw down with each other, but Big Roy decided to give them one anyway. 18 months earlier, the Hammett P led his boys into Bro's toy box, chain whipped Bro, and made off with several members of his club, including Sparks, North, and Buckshot. Now, Bro had done the unthinkable. He'd patched in with the Sons of Hell, a support for the Hells Angels. These were the same fuckers that had been no-shows the night Crash and I had gotten shit-faced and gone looking for trouble in Lake Elsinore. What shaped Roy's ass was that the Sons had patched Bro in despite Pinky swearing never to bring any former member of the Bros into their club. Guess it wasn't enough to rip the man's head open with the chain and take his club apart. Big Roy wanted him banished from the outlaw world altogether. Much to his chagrin, though, that wasn't happening. The Sons of Hell were standing firm on club pride and allowing Bro to keep his patch, which wasn't that hard when you had a big brother the size of the Hells Angels standing behind you. Outlaw motorcycle gangs went to war for many reasons, while personal slights fell pretty far down the list. And yet the Hammett P was demanding satisfaction. Big Roy felt betrayed, and among the one percenters' sacred commandments, betrayal touches on the most mortal of sins, disrespect. How Roy intended to avenge that insult would be the subject of our chapter's next Wednesday night church meeting, to be held at the $300,000 home Jenna and I had just moved into, in which the feds had wired from top to bottom and one end to the other. The new house on the Spirit Circle came to us thanks to Jenna's dad, who had stepped down as Hammett's first fire chief and was retiring as a captain. Jenna and I attended his going away ceremony at the Civic Center in a room jammed with Riverside County firemen and cops. I knew quite a few of those officers and sheriff's deputies. At one time or another, I'd been handcuffed by most of them. Toward the end of the evening, Jenna took the microphone and addressed the room. She told her father how much she appreciated all he'd done for her, how hard he'd worked to keep her off drugs, and how much she admired him. As she spoke, the captain was moved to tears. He told me later that his daughter's courageous and heartfelt speech had helped bring some closure between them. Bill had remained around that time, and his new wife's home, just down the street from his own, was now standing vacant. During one of the backyard barbecues, he asked if I might be interested in leasing the place to own it. Hell yeah, I was interested. "I think you deserve better than where you're at," Bill said to me. "A fresh start couldn't hurt, right?" I knew where this was leading. Ever the counselor, Bill had often tried talking me out of the dead-end life of the motorcycle outlaw. I'd listen to the man's arguments, nod, understanding, then go right back to riding with the Boggles. It's just, That you always seem to have one foot in and one foot out, Bill said to me once. From everything I've seen, I don't think your heart's really in it. You might be right, Pops. So why not get out? It's complicated, I told him. But believe me, it's not forever. Someday things are going to change, you'll see. I really hope so, because to be honest, I don't see much of a future for you with those people. Eventually, Bill gave up trying to change my mind, a lesson he no doubt learned the hard way with Jenna. Besides, even a man who rode with an outlaw motorcycle gang had to be a step up from the drug-dealing, abusive son of a bitches his daughter had been shacking up with in the past. Man, I couldn't vacate that shack in Via Vista fast enough. Jenna and I went from living in a complete dump to a high-end property with a jacuzzi, bathtub, and a spare bedroom for old Joe. My buddy could finally move out of his Spartan 15-foot travel trailer. Jenna wasn't exactly doing handsprings when she found out Joe would be following us to the other side of the tracks. But she sure was a happy piglet in her fancy new pen. That girl didn't want for anything. My family tree service business was booming, so I paid all the bills and kept a little extra in the bank account so she had spending money. By this time, Jenna had graduated school and was working as a medical assistant in a family practice. So old Joe became the designated nanny, shuttling Sierra to preschool and dance lessons. Yes, indeed, we were just one big all-American happy family. Jenna was still struggling with her demons, of course, but since the Todd episode, she'd been making an honest effort to keep her shit together and be a good mother to Sierra and a faithful girlfriend to me. Lying in bed together, our first night in the new house, she snuggled close and whispered, "Thank you." "What's that for?" "For keeping me safe," she said. "I love you, George." I didn't know what to say to that, so I didn't say anything. It's true I still had feelings for Jenna, but I honestly couldn't say I loved her. Not after all the shit she put me through. I was just trudging my way forward, dragging her ass behind me. And let me tell you, man, between the lying and the cheating and the drug use, that 5'6", 120-pound load was some heavy weight to haul. When I told Uncle Johnny Law about our new house on Esprit Circle, his eyes lit up with the possibilities. A homeowner with Loki on his back was an ideal setup for gathering intelligence, especially with digs like ours. John's idea was to wire their entire place for sound and picture, then invite the Vogels in for their Wednesday night church get-together. The Hammett boys were meeting in garages. Compared to that, my place would be like a boardroom at the Hyatt. They jump all over that shit. ATF required a day and a half to completely outfit the house, so they had to maneuver carefully around Jenna's work schedule. As soon as she drove off in the morning, the technicians swooped in with their vans, one painted to look like an alarm installation company. These boys were surveillance specialists, and they were damn good at what they did. The techs moved fast but deliberately through the rooms, tearing up walls, placing electronics, then patching things up again. And man, that gear was small. We're talking flea shit tiny. Even if the Vogels knew what to look for, they never would have found it. About mid-afternoon, while the installation was still in progress, I heard a motorcycle pull up in the driveway and peeked out the window. It was Big Todd. He'd been reinstated as the chapter sergeant at arms by this time and apparently considered us best buddies again. The son of a bitch never did apologize for screwing my girlfriend. The man just went about his business like nothing ever happened. The garage was wide open, so Todd walked straight on through and entered the house like he owned the place. "Hey, what's happening, Big George?" Todd still called me Big George, but to the rest of the Vogels, I was now simply known as George. Big Roy had finally decided there were too many bigs in the chapter, and since I was the last big to come aboard, mine had to go. Roy tried to saddle me with the road name Risky instead, claiming it was because I was always on the edge and you never know what I might do. He even tried getting the rest of the chapter to call me Risky, but each time those bastards threw it out there, I swatted them down. Something about working undercover with the Risky didn't quite work for me. Risky the Rat. Fuck that. I knew of another patch holder who once drove a recycled police car. The name he got stuck with was Cop, and members kept their distance from that dude like he was contagious. Nope, I might have been a snitch, but no way were they going to pin Risky on me. So I took Big George off the cut and settled for plain old George instead. "You're putting that alarm system in, huh?" said Todd. "Yeah, finally getting it done," I told him. On John Carr's suggestion, I spread the word among the Vagos that I'd be alarming the house. And surprise visitors like Big Todd were the reason why. He dodged one of the busy technicians and headed for the fridge for a cold beer. "You hear the latest about bro?" he said while fishing for a bottle. "What about him?" "The Sons of Hell said they won't boot him. Roy's fucking pissed." "What's he gonna do?" I asked. Todd twisted the cap off a beer, then nearly bumped into one of the stallers on his way to hook up the garage. "Well, you didn't hear from me," he said, "but looks like we're going after them." "Think so?" "I know so, brother, and I can't fucking wait." He plopped down in an armchair, swigged his beer, and grinned at the activity around him. "Fuck, nobody's getting in there, huh?" Big Todd stayed for another hour, drinking free beer and shooting the shit, while saws buzzed and hammers pounded. The ATF boys never stopped working. At 7:30 on Wednesday night, the Hemet Vagos gathered at the house to decide the fate of the treacherous bro and those two-faced bastards, the Sons of Hell. Before the meeting got underway and club business was discussed, Big Roy took me aside and said he would have to take certain precautions. Next thing I knew, in walked some dude with one of those security wands you saw TSA using at the airport. This wasn't uncommon. The wand had come out before at other church meetings, even at Roy's place in San Jacinto. I held my breath as the bug man started circling the room, moving the wand along the walls, the furniture, the stereo equipment, the lights and the fixtures, each time calling out clear. It was clear this, clear that. Well, one thing was perfectly clear to me. Whatever the Vagos were paying that scammer, I wanted to double it. As I was watching him work, I was thinking, "Why, you dumb bastard. This whole house is infested. That thing should be screaming bugs." But no, instead, the Vago's so-called expert gave a final all clear